Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 440, three. I forgot to update my goddamn notes. Oops, oops. Okay, so, where we left off last week was with the damn R rolls, the Frosty Games Fest. So, it is June, which means, among other things, it is not E3 month. So there are a lot of video game showcases put on by various publishers and orgs that are showing off the gaming goodness that we can look forward to in the coming months and, in some cases, years. Like the Xbox show, which almost everything was 2027. I, for some silly reason, decided to watch every single showcase I could. And if you had asked me a week ago, at the beginning of the month, Andrew, you handsome young man, you, how many video game showcases would you estimate there are? I would have said, well, you got the three main publishers, Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony. You got Summer Games Fest, you got the PC Gaming Show, you got that Future Games one. There's a wholesome one. There's a couple different little boutique ones. So probably a dozen roundabouts. I ended up watching 21 video game showcases, totaling a little over 25 hours of video game marketing. I haven't played any other than last week's Sunday stream. I haven't played any video games. I've been too busy watching the marketing for video games that mostly I'm not going to play. And I'm wondering, can I even consider myself a gamer at this point? So, yes. So, last week I talked about everything that stood out to me. For good or ill, from the various showcases I had watched up to then, but the showcases continued throughout Sunday and a little Monday and Tuesday. And so we're going to pick up where we left off. And where we left off was with the V3 Expo showcase. I have no idea what or who V3 is. They seemed to be a demo showing off the indiest of the indie games, like a lot of stuff you would find on itch.io. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. There are several indie showcases, but most of those are games you'll probably find on Steam, maybe Good Old Games and Epic Game Store. A lot of the V3 Expo stuff seemed to be, it's like, this is the very small, usually pretty small scale, rough looking, developer's first game, one person kind of thing that you'd find on itch.io. And I think that's incredibly valuable in and of itself, because you're not going to see trailers for any of these games like on the Summer Games Fest show. Jeff Keighley's not going to have these itch.io games on his extravaganza. That said, there was really nothing in this particular showcase that stood out to me. Not that it was a poor showcase; it was fine. Not that not that the games all looked bad. They didn't. Just nothing really that I felt I needed to talk about positively or negatively. Chaos only watched the Nintendo Direct. Did you watch all the Treehouse Live segments? I did. And to be clear, I'm counting like the Nintendo Direct and the Treehouse Live segments as one showcase. I'm counting the Xbox showcase and the following Gears of War half-hour deep dive as one showcase. So, 21 showcases. Chaos says, I used to watch all the E3 shows, taking notes during the presentations and rating them. Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm still kind of taking notes, but rather than, listing all of the games, I'm just writing down the stuff that I thought looked interesting. Hey, I downloaded like 15 demos between Steam and my console, so I've only actually played two of them. And if I get through this list tonight, I'll talk about what I thought of them because they're two of the games I mentioned last week. But like I said, I haven't. Oh well, that's not true. I did play two demos, so there we go. Gamer card restored. Uh, Jared said, must have been bored at work like me. Well, I mean, even if I am bored, I kind of have to work at work, and work is stressful. I don't remember if I regaled you with this particular anecdote last week or on social media, but I was at work. This was the week before last, I think, and I suddenly thought to myself, when the hell was the last time I went to the dentist? Oh no. Ha- have I been slacking off? Did, and I was trying to think, I'm like, oh no, when was my last cleaning and checkup? It's got to have been like at least a year, right? Oh God, maybe a year and a half? Why didn't they email me? Did they email me? And I just. So I called the dentist. I spoke to the receptionist. I said, hey, it's Andrew. We're on a first name basis after I accidentally stole money from him. That's a story in and of itself. And I asked her, I said, hey, this is Andrew. Could you tell me when the last time I was in there or when my next appointment is? Because I can't remember. And she says, oh, yeah, you were in here in February. You're not due for another checkup until August. So I went to my calendar and I flipped back a few months and went, oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, my last cleaning and checkup was in February. Yeah, that's kind of how my year's been going. It's been a thing. So yeah, that was it's kind of like, oh man, I genuinely have no memory of this at all. I mean, it's in my calendar. It must have happened, but I'm like, oh no, when was my last checkup? Oh crap, did I put it off for a year and a half? My teeth are gonna fall out. Ah, no, no, I was there in February. Not due till the end of summer. Well, luckily I have a couple 3-day weekends coming up. Got a 3-day weekend for Juneteenth and got a 3-day weekend for 4th of July. So yay. Um. So all right. Next we have the Horror Game Awards showcase. I'm not sure who this is either, but I like horror. I like games. So, a horror games show. They didn't actually give any awards, though. It was just a showcase of horror games. But there were several that caught my eye, so I will talk about them now. KS has likewise just recently dropped 1200 on glasses. I hear you. Yeah, my I wear contacts and decent vision plan though, so I only pay like less than 400 a year for well about 400 including the office visit copay. Um or no, the office visit is covered. It's some of the extra things like the glaucoma test that are not covered. So all in all, it's a little under $400, I think, for the glaucoma test and the year's worth of contact lenses. Although this year there was a supply issue and I couldn't get my new lenses for like 2 months, so I had to have like a slightly different prescription, a slightly one notch away from what I should have had, something like that. It's been a weird year. All right, so horror game showcase. One of the games that stuck out is a game called Dead Watch. Um, You imagine there's actually a literal watch in this game? Because there is, and it's used for time travel, which is interesting because it has a really fun, cartoony aesthetic, but it takes place in what appears to be some type of haunted castle. Um, I think what's going on is every time you die, you just rewind time. So it's kind of like, I guess, Sands of Time, where every time you die, you just rewind back to the beginning and do it again. I guess you're just groundhog daying your way through a haunted castle to escape. But I really liked the cartoony presentation, and looked like it could be a fun premise at least. I don't know how well the game would play, but there was another one called House 2. I'm not was not familiar with House 1, but this was another one that had a very cartoony aesthetic, kind of a off-brand Disney 2D Saturday morning adventure cartoon kind of design to its look. Um, this one is a House of Horrors, looks kind of like a point-and-click adventure game, maybe, and it stars a young girl with one arm, which rarely, if ever, see such a protagonist, so that's cool. Out of curiosity, I looked to see what House 1 was, and it had a presentation that was very early 80s point-and-click adventure game blocky graphics kind of a presentation, and it looks like it has the same young protagonist, and it looks like she had both arms in the original game, so man, she must have went through hell in that first game. I think she lost a limb, and she still doesn't have it. Well, obviously, she didn't get like a cybernetic arm or anything. She doesn't have her limb in the second game, so kind of interesting. I like cartoon. I love the juxtaposition of cartoons and gory splatter horror. That I always find amusing. Um, Here's a fun one: Sucker for Love, Crush Landing. Uh, this is a dating sim slash visual novel, which I normally would have no interest in. But the premise of this is some type of sentient comet crashes into your apartment and takes the shape of a shapely woman. And the shapely woman is probably some eldritch horror of some stripe because you have to feed her things, including apparently like the neighbors that come knocking on the door to see if you're okay after a comet just crashed through your window. And the FBI and the CIA and the other government spooks, you have to act fast. You're probably going to get your soul torn in half, but you might get a smooch too. The tagline is "Put the love in Lovecraftian horror," and I kind of love it. I imagine this is probably only like a 15-minute game or something like that, but that is pretty funny. Um, I actually looked this game up. This is the third in a series of dating sims where you date some type of monster which you really should not be trying to smooch. The first one is a very shapely Cthulhu. And you might get a smooch, but it's probably the last thing you're ever gonna get. But I guess it's like worth it. I don't know. It comes across as a deliberate joke. I have no idea if these actually play well, but I mean, this is the third in a series, so someone must like them, or they're very cheap to produce. I don't know. Put the love in Lovecraftian horror. I do like that. It's like, oh, that alien comet's in the shape of a woman. I should kiss it. Hmm. Um. The next one I wanted to talk about is called "Don't Let It Starve." This to me, looks like the most interesting of the glut of feed the monster before it eats you type of games. Uh, Throughout the 25 some hours of video game trailers that I luxuriated in, there were a large number of games where the premise is you seem to be stuck in a particular location with some type of entity with a bottomless appetite, and it's your goal to feed that sucker before it eats you. There's a bunch of games like that. This one seems to be the most interesting because it seems to be combining that premise with an escape room. It seems to be the idea of the game is you solve puzzles to try and escape the room. You know, keep feeding the monster with anything you can get, including apparently chopping off your own arm, while you solve the various puzzles to unlock the door and skedaddle. But perhaps the clues are all BS and the monster's just messing with you. I don't know for sure, but it's kind of got that vibe where there may be no way out. Um, but I guess you have nothing better to do than buy time by feeding the monster while you look around and see if there's anything you can do. Of that genre, looks like the most interesting. There is a game called Gretel and Hansel. Looks like a point and click adventure, and it has a really appealing, to me at least, watercolor aesthetic. Another horror game with an overtly cartoony presentation. So, you need to escape the witch and her house, which appears to be haunted, and the monster-infused land surrounding the witch's house. Like, it seems if you get out of the house, it's just out of the frying pan into the fire. And escape with your brother, who seems to be kind of a gormless, mindless moron who would just walk off of a cliff like a lemming. He doesn't seem to be all there. He seems like an absolute drag. Typical escort quest NPC, right? But he's your brother. You gotta try not to let him get killed. And one of the selling points for sickos like me is there are a lot of ways for your cartoon kitty character, well, both you and your dumb brother, to die. And they are viscerally gory. You can get torn in half, decapitated, skinned, melted. There's a lot of creative ways that you can meet your unpleasant demise in this game, and I really admire that. One of my favorite, on a small tangent here, one of my favorite, the old Sierra Quest games are usually not overtly gory, but you could die in most of the games, or in a lot of the games, you could die in horrific, though usually not explicit ways, mainly because the graphics just weren't there to do it. One of my favorites is I died very early on in, I think, Space Quest. But the text parser was still on the screen, so I kept trying to type stuff like, get up. You can't, you're dead. You know, I kept trying stuff, and then it eventually say, you sure do talk a lot for a dead guy. I've always remembered that line. I've always thought that was really funny. So I, had to F7 or whatever the restore save was. That was pretty close to the beginning of the game. I think I, vented all the air out of the ship and suffocated or something. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure that was Space Quest. Man, you can die easily in the King's Quest games, but man, Space Quest just, oh man, there are a lot of ways to die in that one. Good God. I remember walking down the winding path from Mananan's house in King's Quest 3. Christ. It's like, okay, I gotta not only save the game, but I have to lower the speed to slow just so I can manage to walk down this damn path. Later on in the game, you managed to get a warp spell, so you didn't have to keep. And it's like, oh shit, Manonad's gonna be back, and I've got to hurry my ass back up this winding path. Um, this is a game from the '80s, so I don't know how many of you know of this game, but fun times when I was a children. Let's see what's next. What's next is a game called Graft. This is a survival horror game where you run around with the um, torso of your lover grafted to your body in an embrace. So she is missing her legs, kind of like the robot gal in the new Predator movie, but instead of wearing her as a backpack, she's just kind of, you're just hugging her to your chest, and she's got her arms around you and her head resting on your shoulder, and you're kind of like melting into each other, like John Carpenter's The Thing kind of melting into another as it absorbs another person. I have no idea if the game is going to be any good. Honestly, it doesn't look like much, but that's a pretty cool concept, and the sales art is a wonderful visual. I did look up the game a little bit, and there does seem to be a more to it than just your girlfriend being. What's that body horror movie that came out in the last year? Where the people melt into each other. I forget what it's called. Kind of like that. But apparently there's a defeat the enemies and graft parts of them onto yourself to gain new powers, but maybe don't do that too much because you want to keep your humanity after all, and if you just replace all your parts with it, you graft enough crap onto you, can you really be human anymore? Ooh. Yeah, the game honestly doesn't look that great, but I do like the concept. So it's got that going for it. Let's see. Follow Us. This is a riff on well, maybe not a knowing riff, but the way I'm going to describe it is, you remember Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes? That asynchronous multiplayer game where one person has a book of uh, codes to help decipher various clues and stuff, and the person playing the game has a puzzle box that they need the clues from the book to disarm the bomb before it explodes. So one player can see the puzzle box and has to describe what they're seeing to the other player who can't see the puzzle box and just has to page through the manual to walk them through disarming the bomb. Right? This is kind of like that, but the premise here is one person is like the paranormal investigator who is wandering around the haunted house, and the other person is the person who stayed in the van who has access to like all of the security cameras and all of the supernatural measuring devices to help navigate their friend through the horrors and dangers of said haunted house. So, same idea, different premise. Could be neat. Um, I'm personally not into multiplayer, asynchronous or not, but I think it's a fun idea. So, Jared says only King's Quest game I ever played was 7. I've never played 7. I think the last King's Quest game I played was 5. So I've never played 6 or beyond. I've seen them, but 3 was always my favorite. I didn't care for 5. There's a lot I like about 1, 2, and 4. 3 was always far and away my favorite. But for me, 5 lost a lot of the charm of the early games, and maybe that's kind of why I fell off. Or the friend who had, pardon me, It was probably the friend who had the computer moved away. I didn't have a computer. I played all those PC games at a friend's house who had a computer and the games. I didn't have them. So once our families went their separate ways in life, I guess I no longer had access to the Sierra catalog. Oh well. And finally, on the horror games showcase is a game called Deadly Rehearsal. I'm not clear on how this game plays at all. Um, it appears to be kind of a maybe point and click adventure, investigative mystery kind of a game. Explore the area, find puzzles, try and manipulate the environment to successful for you and possibly your friends to successfully navigate the area without dying. The premise of the game is a theater troupe, for plot reasons, has decided to perform a legendarily cursed play. I'm a theater dork, so I love the concept. From what I'm getting from the trailer is you have to wander around and like check the prop table and make sure everything's in the right place and make sure, I don't know, the lighting rigging is secured and make sure you hit all the lighting and sound cues. And like if you don't do all the stuff properly, then people are going to start dying on stage or something like that. I'm really not clear on how the game plays, but I like the concept of it's the cursed play. No one puts on this play because bad things happen. Oh yeah, well we're gonna put on the play. I'm like, okay, I want to watch this now. So, Steam has 7. Yeah, I've thought about going back to the later King's Quest. You know, Steam has some good old games. I've never got around to it though. Maybe I'll check them out at some time. 7 is particularly cartoony. That's when they really started moving away from like the integrated FMV fully animated stuff rather than the very chunky pixel stuff. All right, so that's the horror game awards showcase. A lot of neat stuff there. Probably not a ton I'm ever going to play, but some stuff that I thought sounded neat. Then was the Xbox Games Showcase. And Doom, The Dark Ages, Revelations. Honestly, I think we really need to call an industry-wide moratorium on words that start with RE. Like Revelation, Requiem, things like that. You know, please stop putting a colon after your game's name and using a re-word. Revelations, Requiem, Resonant. I don't know. There's a couple of them, and I'm sick of them. Please stop it. But I'm not gonna say more to no Doom. I enjoyed Doom: The Dark Ages. This is I think DLC and not a standalone game. They didn't really say. But you know, I'm in. I like Doom. I'll take more Doom. You get a lance in this one and can chuck it at people's heads, so cool. Let's see. There's also, and the last one that stuck out to me from the Xbox Game Showcase was called Magicians, The Devil's Deal. This is a first-person shooter starring a stage magician. So, instead of a gun sticking out on the screen, you have the magician's hands, one of which has a magic wand. So your attacks are all waving your magic wand and, you know, chucking playing cards and shit at people. And I just think that's neat. And he damn well better, like, pull a rabbit out of a hat at some point. I don't know if he's just going to chuck a bunny and the bunny's just going to, like, it's gnawing on my throat, blood gush, you know. I don't know. Needs to pull a rabbit out of a hat at some point. Kind of reminds me of that, what was the game called? Tokyo something. Where it's a first-person shooter, but you're just, like, throwing curses, so the hands are on the screens doing, like, weird finger uh, positionings to do weird spells and stuff. Kind of feels like that, only with playing cards and magic wands and stuff. I just thought the aesthetic was neat, even if the game ends up sucking. Um, so next was the PC Gaming Show. And first of two on my list is a game called There Are No Ghosts at the Grand. I'm not sure about this one. It appears the premise appears to be a guy inherits a hotel from his grandfather, I think, who goes missing. So he goes to the hotel to renovate it. So it appears to play like a power wash simulator. But he's also investigating the disappearance of his father or grandfather, whoever it was. And the hotel is haunted. And and he's working with other people, and they're looking for something specific, so I'm not sure if this is like a heist too. So horror, mystery, heist, renovator, supernatural, and also a musical? It seems to be a musical too. Which is notoriously difficult to do in a video game, but I'm also a music dork, so you got my attention. I have no... And there's a talking cat, so, I mean... If I had to put money on it, I would say that this game is a jumbled mess, and probably doesn't work at all, but hey, I wish you the best. I hope it's great. And lastly, we have the thing I hinted at before we started, Ascenders Beyond the Peak. So this is a isometric view grid-based tactics game, similar to things like XCOM, or what's that, a game Into the Rift or something like that. Those types of games. But this one is, instead of on a flat plane, it's done on a wall, because the premise is you're part of a team that's climbing a mountain. And you need to use the terrain and gravity, including cutting some of your team loose, to ascend. So there are craggy outcroppings, and there's all kinds of monsters and stuff on the wall, and your climbing team has to work their way up the wall, to ascend this climbing wall. And I have absolutely no interest in actually playing that, but that's a really clever idea. I don't recall those isometric grid-based tactics games ever been put on a vertical wall. The playing field, I've only ever seen horizontal playing fields. I think this is the first time that's ever not only used a vertical playing field, but also uses gravity. So if your lines you just fall off the whole damn thing, which is kind of funny. Cool variation on a theme. Oh, I think that's right, Jared. Thank you. Ghostwire Tokyo. I think that the hand manipulating first person cast hexes and stuff game. Yeah, I think that's right. Ghostwire Tokyo. Thank you. And that was the PC Gaming Show. Next we had the Deutsche Indie Showcase, and nothing particularly stuck out for me there. Again, like the V3 one, nothing wrong with it. Perfectly fine showcase. Just nothing really caught my eye in any overtly positive or negative way. And sadly, the same thing with the India Game Showcase. Perfectly fine showcase, some interesting games, nothing that really stood out to me though. Moving on, we have the Nintendo Direct. Now, I went into this one with some trepidation, I suppose, because I am a longtime Nintendo fanboy, And as a longtime Nintendo fanboy, it makes me a bit sad that we're a bit more than a year out from the release of the Switch 2, as in it came out a little over a year ago. And I still don't have a Switch 2. Not because I can't afford one, I could budget it, but because I don't really want one. There's only one game on the Switch 2 that I would like to play that I need a Switch 2 to play, and that's Donkey Kong Bonanza. And to be frank, I'm not thrilled about shelling out $70 for Donkey Kong Bonanza, nor am I thrilled about shelling out $450 for the Switch 2. That said, though there's really only one game, excluding anything that may have been announced at the Nintendo Direct, and we'll get there. So going into the Nintendo Direct, I was thinking, well, if I'm going to get a Switch 2, it's probably going to be this summer because they're raising the price $50 in September. So if I'm going to get it, I better get it while the getting's good. So we have one game that I actually need, that I want to play, that I actually need the Switch 2 for. And to be clear, that's not to say there's nothing worth playing, just that, I don't know, none of the other, like Mario Kart World, perfectly fine game. I have no interest. I don't like kart racers. It's just not my game. That kind of thing. Lots of great games. Some of them exclusive. I don't have any interest in them. Metroid Prime 4. It doesn't look very good, but I'm very curious to play it because I like the first three. But I could always just play that on the original Switch. Won't run in as high a resolution, or probably as high a frame rate, but I can still... It's not worth it. It's not worth $450 to play a slightly visually prettier and better running version of Metroid Prime 4. To me. Now, having said that, while there is only one game that I'm really interested in playing, from what I understand, a lot of the games, Switch games, just naturally run better on the Switch 2. For example, I have the remake of, not Link Between Worlds, Link's Adventure. And from what I understand, it doesn't run great on the original Switch, but it runs at a locked 60 on the Switch 2. So, buying a Switch 2 would not only give me access to Bonanza, but the Switch games that I haven't been playing, mostly on purpose for the last year, because I figured I'd be getting a Switch 2 at some point, may as well wait until I do because they'll run better, I'll have some games that run better. So, that's what I was thinking heading into the Nintendo Direct. Hoping that they'd announce some games, hopefully plural, that I'm like, ooh, that looks amazing. I want to play that, and I need a Switch 2 to play it. I'd probably still grumble about paying $450 for a console that's a full technological generation behind its contemporaries, but that's kind of been the life of a Nintendo fanboy for the last couple decades, so what you gonna do? Alright, so let's see what stood out. Rhythm Heaven Groove. This was announced like a year ago. I love Rhythm Heaven and have been looking forward to this for a long time. It was nice to see some more footage of it. Looks neat. It's not a Switch 2 game, though. It's a Switch game. It can be played on the Switch 2, of course. But it's just a Switch game. On the bright side, if I end up not getting a Switch 2, it's not going to lock me out of Rhythm Heaven Groove, so that's a plus. At least it's not $1,000, yeah. Like I think the Steam Deck is going to be eventually, something like that. Ninjala 2, The Uncharted Planet. I write this one down for two reasons. Number one, I was kind of surprised that there was a sequel to Ninjala. Did anyone play that? Did that have a fan base? Like, did enough people play that to justify doing another one? I remember that the first one came out. I've never heard anyone talk about it. That doesn't mean it's bad. That doesn't mean it doesn't have a fan base. It just means I'm like, oh, really? What? Was that a thing that people enjoyed? If so, great. Hey, you got a sequel. Good on you. The other thing that stuck out to me is they kept referring to it the trailer for Ninjala 2, The Uncharted Planet, kept referring to the game as the first part and never elaborated on that. I'm not clear what that means. Is it an early access game? Is it being released in chapters? Like the Telltale games? You know, the Walking Dead, not, was it Walking Dead? Yeah, it was Walking Dead. You know, it was like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however, the 6 episodes, whatever it was. I have no idea. I don't know what they mean by the first part. You're doing a number one. You're doing a sequel to Ninjala, really? And it's a multi-part sequel, really? Okay. Again, to be clear, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not offended or anything. I'm just like, huh? Was not on my bingo card. Also at the event was Muramasa Revenant Blades. There's another word that starts with R-E. I mean, at least it's combined with something, but yeah, we could probably retire that one too. We've also got Fire Fantasy Resonance coming up. I'll talk about that in a second, but... Oh, and we've also got Ocarina of Time Reborn. Stop re-ing stuff. I'm particularly sick of, you know, Requiem and Resolution, Revolutions, Revelations, things like that. Please stop, because it bugs me. Anyway, but we're talking about Muramasa Revenant Blades, which, as far as I can tell, is just Muramasa the Demon Blade from the Wii and the PS2 era, which I own, and I've played. I've tried to play at least twice, probably 3 times, and I really just don't like the game. It's beautiful. Gorgeous damn game. It's one of those of, was it Vanillaware, I think? Absolutely stunningly, aesthetically gorgeous game, and I do not like playing it, which is weird because it's like a ninja beat 'em up. But I hate it. I don't have any fun playing it at all. And this appears to be the original game, just in higher resolution and with 3 or 4 new characters, which is cool, but I don't think adding new characters is going to make me a fan of this very pretty game. And that's always made me sad that I don't like the game, because I like looking at the game. I just don't like playing it. So I don't get to look at it, because I don't want to play it. Oh well. Next up, Xenoblade Chronicles Genesis. At least they didn't call it Regenesis or anything. Not a remake, it's just another Xenoblade Chronicles game. I don't know what they're doing with the numbering. I mean, they had Xenoblade Chronicles, then Xenoblade Chronicles X, then Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and the DLC, Torin Country or whatever it's called. And then they had Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but none of these games really have much to do with each other. It's kind of like the Final Fantasy games. And so is this Xenoblade Chronicles 4? Was X Xenoblade Chronicles 2? Is Genesis removed in the same way that X was? Does it have it? I have no idea. I've heard some mutter that it's a prequel of some sort, like it exists on the, the Bionis and Mechonis just prior to Shulk and Friends. I have no idea. But I've found the Xenoblade series to be pretty hit or miss, but definitely worth keeping an eye on. Just for funsies, I really like Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I like Xenoblade Chronicles X. I think 2 looks terrible. But I think the DLC, Torin Country, or whatever it's called, I think it looks really good. And Xenoblade Chronicles 3, I'm not sure about, but I think it looks good. So, I don't know. Definitely one to keep my eye on. New universe? Okay. Yeah, that would be a spoiler. I mean, the game's 15 years old, but yeah. New Xenoblade Chronicles. Neat. Hope it's good. Final Fantasy Resonance. I may be mistaken, But Final Fantasy Resonance looked to me like that gacha game on mobile. I don't remember what it's called, Final Fantasy Origins. I don't remember what it's called, but is that that gacha game? Is this a port of the gacha game on mobile? Did you get rid of like the gacha stuff? I I mean, the presentation is pretty, but I don't trust this one. This one makes me suspicious. I didn't. I guess I could have read up on it and I forgot, or I just didn't care enough. But I was watching. I'm like, oh, that's pretty, and then I was like, wait a minute. Is this that gacha game on mobile? I don't want a port of that gacha game for mobile. Maybe other people do, but so anyway, Final Fantasy Resonance. Jared says it's unfortunate that the best game in the trilogy has the worst design of the series. Which one? Because I'm not sure which one you mean. I could actually make arguments for. I would worst design for Xenoblade. I would argue two, easy by far. Like for me, particularly the main protagonist. Yes, the main female lead and her counterpart, but mostly the male protagonist. That is one of the dumbest, most unattractive character designs since the protagonist of Hybrid Heaven on the N64. Ooh, or even, speaking of the N64, Body Harvest. Kind of the big blocky orange suit. I have no idea what the hell they were. It looks like he's in like some kind of, I mean, it kind of makes sense because he's like a sky diver. He's diving underneath the clouds to scavenge stuff, so he's kind of dressed in like what looks like a old-timey diver's suit, but it's just such a garbage design. I'm like, oh man, I hope you can change that character's outfit at some point. And I don't remember the his companion character's name. She has like a twin or an alternate personality or alternate ego or something. I don't like their design either. I think it's garbage. So I think 2 definitely has the worst design. Jared says 2. Okay. But you think it's the best game, huh? Interesting. Interesting. I haven't played it, so I can't really say, but I always thought that 2 just bad design, but also just doesn't look good gameplay-wise. But I thought it was really funny because I thought the DLC for the game looked really good. I'm like, wait a minute, the base game looks crap to me, but I'm really digging the DLC? Huh. I have heard that some people say, yeah, the DLC is actually better than the base game. It's really, really good. So, no idea. Haven't played it. Probably not going to. Final bit on Nintendo Direct is Ocarina of Time Reborn. Well, I've played Ocarina of Time back on the Nintendo 64 in 1998. So I hope it's a Resident Evil style reimagining and not just a pretty version of the original. Because if it's just a new coat of paint, already played it. Not interested. I'll still admire it from afar, but I already played it. The bad guys are a good part of the game? Okay. A good villain can do a lot of heavy lifting. I'm definitely I mean, they say 2026, so I imagine they're probably trying to wait until they're probably like, let's get Star Fox out of the way before we really get into Ocarina of Time. But considering that Star Fox is really just a graphical overhaul of the original game, from what I can see, it's the original game just with Metal Gear Solid amounts of cutscenes layered. It looks like it destroys the pacing of what was a very quick pick-up-and-play arcade shooter with very long, drawn-out, talky cutscenes. even for someone who actually kind of likes the weird animal designs, um, the maybe overly realistic animal designs of the Star Fox crew. Uh, Maybe there's some interesting new stuff in the back half of the game. I don't know, but Star Fox looks like it's just essentially a fresh coat of paint and new cutscenes on the N64 original. N64, yeah. So I would imagine that Ocarina of Time is probably the same thing. It's exactly the same game, just with a new coat of paint and probably more elaborate story cutscenes. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's more than that. I hope it's a, like I said, Resident Evil style reimagining, or even Final Fantasy VII style reimagining. Because then I might be like, oh shit, gotta get me a Switch 2 now. Because as of right now, the Switch 2 may be the first Nintendo console that I just skip entirely. And that doesn't make me feel good, you know, as a Nintendo fanboy and all. We'll see what happens. Let's see. Jared, continuing to talk about Xenoblade 2, says main character sucks. Side characters kinda or do suck, but the villains and the world story, that's where you got me. Alright, fair enough. I can see that. Um... Oh wow, it's a couple minutes of 8. That was the last showcase, so that's all of them. Um yeah, I guess really the only if Ocarina of Time is doing something new, or it's like mechanically so different that it's essentially a new game, then maybe I'll shell out for a Switch 2. I mean, I will. If Ocarina of Time ends up being a, oh man, I need to play that, then I will budget a Switch 2. But this looks like the Switch 2's last chance with me, because it's not what I want in a console. It doesn't have but one game so far that I'm interested in playing that I actually need the console to play. And I'm not particularly happy. I think the console and its games are overpriced. Well, I think all the consoles are overpriced, but considering that the Switch 2 is a entire technological generation behind its contemporaries, at least from graphical display capabilities, I I find the high price, though it is still lower than its contemporaries, just absurd. You know, but I guess that's my problem. All right, I am going to continue to sweat. I actually need to go shopping because I am out of some food stuffs, so I will do that. And hope to see y'all tomorrow for some more Cold Steel 3. Where are we in that game? We're in Parm. We just found Mint. She hasn't gotten herself or anyone killed yet that we know of. So we will continue that adventure tomorrow at noon Pacific Standard Time. Looking forward to that because I haven't played a lot of video games in the last week. I've been too busy with the marketing. You know, the really important part of being a gamer. Buy some ice cream. There we go. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for hanging out. Hope to see you tomorrow for the Sunday stream. Until then, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.